Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're exploring one of the most fascinating ideas around spirituality and consciousness, the Akashic Records. In many traditions, the records are explained as an energetic library of the soul, field of information that holds the story of our lives, our patterns, our lessons, and the experiences behind it all and the lessons we take from that. Today, my guest, Daniela Gil, is a Akashic Records channel, an intuitive psychic guide that helps people guide and gain deeper insights about their lives, their challenges, relationships, and anything to improve their lives. Besides that, she also holds Huachuma ceremonies, working with plant medicine, guiding people through profound experiences of healing, self-discovery, and connection. Today, we're going to explore the Akashic Records, what it is, how to channel in their own records, and what it eventually can provide for their lives and for the collective. So welcome, Daniela. So good to have you here.
Thank you, Jordy.
First of all, let's start and dive right in. Like a lot of people have heard about the Akashic Records, but maybe don't know actually what it means. So maybe you can shine a little light on that.
I think of the Akashic Records like the mind of God. The word Akasha is the Sanskrit word for ethers or space. So the Akashic Records are the subtle energetic imprint of the totality of the Big Bang within space. And while we are in these human incarnations, we are making sense of reality through this human mind, which is designed to make sense of this seemingly limited linear experience of life. We don't have access to the Akashic Records in their totality, but we can come into a state of consciousness where we can receive insight, psychic intuitive awareness, or divine spiritual guidance or wisdom that is relevant to our human lives from the Akashic Records.
How long have you been doing this work?
For 11 years now.
Is this something that you are born with, or is this something you develop over time? How does that work?
I feel that for most people, it's something they develop over time by actually consciously practicing and attempting to access the Akashic Records and developing the foundations for accessing the Akashic Records. For me, this is very much my dharma and my life path because I was born extremely psychic.
What does that actually mean, psychic?
Well, when I say that, when I was born, I was highly telepathic, intuitive, very multidimensional, and I thought everybody was.
Like I also heard that, we have the five senses, but that the psychic gifts are actually like beyond that, like more like a sixth sense or an overall gathering of extraordinary senses. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I can give you an example from when I was a child of when I realized that I had unique intuitive senses and was deeply psychic and telepathic. When I was in kindergarten, we were raising chicks. So we had about 24 eggs. And one day we came into kindergarten and 2 of the eggs had hatched. And the teachers, we had 2 teachers, they told us to guess what 2 eggs had hatched. Before the 2 eggs hatched, the teachers had made predictions on what eggs might hatch first based on the movement that they sensed inside the eggs. And I think maybe the temperature, I don't remember. I was in kindergarten. But anyway, I took a moment to listen and I heard what 2 eggs had hatched. I heard it in the psychic field, in the telepathic field. We went around and every person offered their guess of what eggs that had hatched. And I was appalled because every kid was guessing wrong. And then when it got to me, I was like, duh, number 8 and number 16. Like I was so like, how did they not know? And then when everyone finished his guessing, the teachers made a really big deal out of me having guessed the right 2 eggs, 8 and 16. Those were the 2 eggs that had hatched. And I was so confused. I didn't know if it was a prank. all day long, I remember being like, that was so weird. Because at 5 years old, I thought everybody was perceiving and relating to reality the way that I was. And for me, all it took was one moment of listening to be like, oh, 8 and 16. Why? Because it was already in the field, because both of the teachers knew it was 8 and 16. So I was able to hear that and pick up on that. So when I say psychic, I mean like an intuitive sense that is heightened, and that would be an example.
If you're talking about this field, what are you actually talking about?
The Akashic Records.
How would you explain it in, like, if someone haven't heard anything about it or doesn't understand anything about consciousness or energy, how would you explain that in, like, simple terms?
The collective field. The collective field, which is the culmination of all perspectives, of all insight, of all knowledge. When people are psychic, they have more connection to that field, and they can pick up more imprints from the field. So I can give another example from when I was 5. I got on the bus, and my friend was mean to me, and she was my best friend. And I was like, so hurt. I was like, oh no, why is she being mean to me? And I took a moment to listen and tune in. And I realized that she had gotten into a fight with her brother that morning, and that her brother had actually hit her. So she was in a really bad mood. So then I was like, oh, that's why she was mean. And I understood. And then that night, I was telling my dad before bed about my day. You know, that's what I would do when I was in kindergarten. My dad would come home from work late at night, and he would put me to bed, and he would ask me questions about my day. And that was our time to connect. And I told him, and he was like, oh, your friend told you that she fought with her brother? And I was like, no, I heard it. Like, I knew. And he was like, what do you mean? She didn't tell you? And I was like, no, it was like in the field. Like, it's just, that's how I would describe it. It's in the field. And then if you really listen, and if you take a moment to tune in and to feel, you can open yourself to feel into the perspectives of others. You can feel into what I think of as a collective shared field. And that is one aspect of the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records are ultimately the culmination of all perspectives. It's everything. It's the mind of God. It's the knowledge of all. It is the subtle energetic imprint of everything that has ever happened, everything that is happening, and everything that could happen. And when we access the Akashic Records, we have access to divine spiritual wisdom. It reminds us of the ways of reality and the way in which we're all one. It's continuously reminding us of love, continuously reminding us of our divine creative power. It's helping us clear ideas of victimhood, of powerlessness, of separation, of lack, all these ideas that are so prevalent within the collective human consciousness that we pick up on within the mental matrix of humanity. So accessing the Akashic Records helps clear us of these ideas that are not resonant with the truth of reality, that are not in alignment with spiritual wisdom. And they help guide us in living in accordance with spiritual wisdom, which then helps us live from this place of well-being. We start to cultivate spiritual well-being, which creates energetic, emotional, mental, and physical well-being. The Akashic Records also they also heighten our psychic awareness, and then we can feel people more deeply, which gives us greater understanding. It also gives us a lot of compassion, and it helps us relate to life and the world and other people and ourselves in more conscious ways.
It's so fascinating, truly.
Yeah.
So if you're saying like what is, what was, but not what will be, what could be.
What could be.
So it is not like fixed, but it can be changed.
Yeah, the Akashic Records reveal that there's infinite possibility. So when you really expand into the Akashic Records, you'll see that everything that could ever be is. This experience of life, we're living within the Big Bang. And the Big Bang is infinity expanding out for an eternity. All possibilities exist. The Akashic Records reveal what possibilities are most likely, what timelines are most likely based on the current momentum, on the current energy. But they also reveal possibility, and they remind us of our divine creative power. The Akashic Records remind us that we are made in the image of God. Therefore, we are also creator and creative beings like God. So we can show up for life and relate to life in ways that can shift timelines.
I think for a lot of people, it's still like a mystery. In that sense, has everyone access to the Akashic Records? Can they develop that themselves?
Yes, I believe that all that we are comes from the Akashic Records. So everything that we're saying, everything that we're thinking. However, we can develop a conscious relationship to the Akashic Records where we are utilizing it to access divine spiritual wisdom and guidance and psychic awareness that is relevant to our human lives. And in order to develop that access, we need to be able to cultivate a state of mind, a state of consciousness that I think of as very still and very spacious. Just like a full cup of water cannot receive more water, a full mind cannot receive the guidance, the insight, the imprints from the Akashic Records. So we have to be able to surrender, to relax, to open our minds, and to become receptive to the insight from the Akashic Records. A busy mind, someone that is thinking a lot or really attached to their perspectives, their opinions, their beliefs, ideas of right and wrong, they will block themselves from accessing the Akashic Records.
There's so many different avenues I already can dive in. But just as you're saying this, what are some tools that you use or practices you use to keep that surrendering, to keep that mind clear, or anything to keep that channel clear?
I prioritize stillness in my life. When I first started accessing the Akashic Records, I received the guidance to stop listening to all podcasts, to spend a lot more time in stillness and in silence, and to cultivate this relationship with that state where I feel comfortable in that state and where it's my natural resting state. So when I first started accessing the Akashic Records, I was listening to a lot of podcasts. I was listening to a lot of YouTube videos. I was learning from a lot of spiritual teachers online, taking a lot of courses. And I received the guidance to stop all of that. And instead of that, spend time in meditation with myself and spend time opening and accessing the Akashic Records, and then asking whatever I was curious about or whatever I wanted to learn about, asking the Akashic Records directly. When I first started accessing the Akashic Records, I also received a lot of guidance around regulating my nervous system, creating a state of being that was relaxed and calm and clear, because in order to access the Akashic Records, we need to be able to come into resonance with the frequency of the Akashic Records. And the frequency of the Akashic Records, it's like this very high frequency of love, of peace, of possibilities. So if we are anxious or operating with fear, or if we are worried about our to-do list and all the things that we have to do, and in any way agitated or feeling like I need to be productive, it keeps us from that that deep state of which allows us to receive the Akashic Records.
Love that. Yeah, before we dive deeper into maybe what a session would look like or what people get out of it, what was a moment for you personally? You said you were practicing for 11 years already, doing sessions. What was a moment in the past where you said, I can no longer deny this ability, this gift, and start using it?
It was my very first time saying a prayer to open the Akashic Records. I called my mom and I told her that I wanted to practice opening the Akashic Records. And she was like, okay. And I practiced on her. And when I said the prayer, I remember feeling this tangible, undeniable, palpable energy. I was like, whoa. And this energy just flooded my entire body, and it enveloped the totality of my consciousness. And then I started exploring the Akashic Records with my mom, and I already knew that I had like very activated psychic gifts, but this was different. I was able to receive very specific memories from my mother's childhood. And when I spoke to it, my mother confirmed. She was like, yes, like that happened when I was a child. And it was a very profound, deeply healing experience for her that I didn't have to think about or that I didn't have to guide. I was in a fully channeled state, speaking to everything that was coming through, and it facilitated this incredible healing for her, where I remember she was crying, she got emotional. It was so unexpected. The imprints that came through, like the psychic imprints, were so accurate, so precise. And that was the very first time I said the prayer to open the Akashic Records. So in that moment, I knew. And then shortly before that, the reason I decided to try opening the Akashic Records was because I had drank ayahuasca. And my prayer, my intention for my ceremony was, ayahuasca, tell me, what is my life purpose, really? And at the time, I was facilitating breath work. I was teaching yoga. I was serving as a holistic health coach. A lot of people were referring me, like a lot of my clients were referring me as a medical medium, even though I never called myself that. That's what they called me, or a medical intuitive. But I wanted to know. So I asked ayahuasca, and that's what came through. Like, you are, over lifetimes, have cultivated a bridge between human consciousness, your human mind, and the Akashic Records. And in this lifetime, you're here to utilize what you have cultivated across lifetimes to share with humanity and to teach people how to access the Akashic Records.
I love that. So if you're working with people, like what kind of people come to you for these sessions?
Anybody and everybody. I tend to attract a lot of psychics, intuitives, life coaches, therapists, a lot of people who are working in the healing arts, a lot of people who are spiritual practitioners, self-development practitioners. They tend to come to me for sessions. But anybody who either wants to develop themselves spiritually and grow spiritually, or who is seeking clarity around any area of their life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a karmic pattern that they've been looping in that they want to break free from, whether it's their health, their finances, their career, a big decision, truly you can explore anything within the Akashic Records.
It is interesting, like you say, also like this karmic work, no? Like karma, a lot of people understand of like action, a reaction, in that sense, and they think they come into this life with these challenges. How do you see karmic work in general, and how to overcome those things?
It depends on the karma. Let me feel into that question. Well, the Akashic Records are brilliant at liberating us from ideas of victimhood and revealing to us that absolutely everything that we are living and experiencing is our karma. And the Akashic Records encourage us to embrace our karma as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to develop our spiritual intelligence, and to see it as a blessing, a gift in some way that is helping us grow spiritually. So oftentimes our karma is leading us to connect ever more deeply to the mind, heart, spirit of God, and remember that we are these divine creator beings. Connect with our prayers, our intentions for our life, and live accordingly, liberating ourselves from the grip of karma. A lot of people create karma for themselves in an infinite number of ways, but I'll speak to one big one. One big one is when we don't forgive, when we're harboring resentment, when we have resistance towards a circumstance of our life, and when we are relating to it with either judgment or fear, and through that resistance, we actually inadvertently perpetuate it. When we are operating outside of divine reality and divine laws, so outside of the realm of love, outside of the realm of unity, outside of taking divine responsibility for our lives, we create karma. So anytime someone strays from love, they create karma from themselves. Anytime they buy into ideas of lack, this is the totality of the Big Bang. That's what we're living. So as soon as you start perceiving, relating to life from lack, if there's like greed, if there's hoarding, that creates karma. If we relate to life from ideas of separation, believing that another is truly separate from you, and then operating in a way that's more self-centered or self-protective, that creates karma.
Love that. Yeah, I know that you have like done thousands of sessions with people from all over the world. You're speaking here about the separation and a lot of like ego stuff. But what are some other things that people come to you within a session? Like what are the first things that they actually speak to, or the questions they do ask?
Why is this happening to me? There's an undesirable circumstance in their life and they're like, why? And how do I heal this? Or sometimes people bring pain. If they have residual pain from an experience in the past, from a relationship dynamic, from a circumstance, like I've been trying to grow my business and I can't. I've been living in financial lack. I'm experiencing this health challenge, these symptoms. I don't know how to heal them. I'm experiencing this worry, this fear, this anxiety. People often come with something along those lines that they want to experience healing and a higher perspective around. And because the Akashic Records are so precise and accurate, and the Akashic Records, it's the mind of God. So it's like an energetic, intelligent stream that knows you and that loves you. And because it knows you, it can offer guidance, perspective, energy that is precise and relevant specifically to you and to your circumstance and why you have developed that circumstance.
I'm very curious, like, if you enter the Akashic Records doing a session for someone, like how does that look like when people ask questions? Like how do you receive, or like what do you see, or what do I have to imagine in that circumstance?
I say a prayer to access the Akashic Records. And when I say the prayer, I feel a tangible, palpable, like very real, it feels so real in my body, elevation of energy, elevation of consciousness. It's like this flood of energy that to me feels like the purest, most powerful love and possibility. And the entirety of my body is like emanating this energy. And then the person starts to speak, and I receive and I listen, and I simply surrender and open to then receiving insight, guidance, imprints from the Akashic Records. And I'll start transmitting energy, and simultaneously I'll start speaking. Sometimes I don't know what I'm speaking about. I'll just say things. Other times I'll receive an entire download and I'll start describing it. And I do have more of an understanding of what's coming through me. But that's how it goes. It's very channeled. So the more that I can get out of the way and trust that the divine is speaking through me, and simply set the intention to love, to serve this person, knowing that God knows how to love and serve them best. So I can just get out of the way and serve as the conduit for this experience on behalf of this person. That's when the energy can flow most freely.
It's also interesting, no? Like as we are developing our spiritual gifts, as you've done, like from age 5 that you became aware, and then developing that. Were there also moments in time where you've doubted like these gifts, these abilities?
Doubted them. They've been so real since I was a child. I was seeing angels when I was a child. I suppose maybe when I was a child, my parents would tell me it was my imagination. I saw angels, I saw demons. And maybe then I was like, am I crazy? Like, what's going on? So maybe when I was a child, I doubted it. But it's all felt very real to me because I was born so multidimensional. And I also started working with plant medicines at a young age, which just kind of verified how real it is. And because because I was born with such a strong connection that even though the people around me thought I was insane, I actually was, I was diagnosed in various ways at 16 because I was so deeply psychic. And I told a therapist that I was talking to that I deeply trusted around how I had shared this transmission with my teacher, because my teacher was kind of mean. She was kind of a bully. I was like 16. And I knew it was because her husband was abusive. And one day I received a download around these things that her husband had said to her. And I heard a little voice. Now I know it was like spirit speaking through me, telling me to say something to her and give her a hug. So I said something to her related to how her husband was treating her. And she started crying and I gave her a hug. And then I told my therapist how I'd like picked up on like all this, intuitive insight and shared with her. And I was put on medication because I was seen as like crazy. But even then, so I had a lot of projections of, she's crazy. I still didn't doubt it because for me, it was just so real. And I felt like other people were kind of insane, not me.
Yeah, it's interesting now, the more develop our gifts, that, we realize that we have to unlearn so much of the conditioning and programming from other people who don't understand these things. Yeah. You were definitely mentioning something, more and more about plant medicine, about ayahuasca. I've introduced you as a Huachuma guide. Like, do you see any similarities between the Akashic Records and plant medicine and the frequency of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, when we're in plant medicine ceremonies and we're deeply connected and our entire vessel is clear, I feel like it's a really potent way to access and get to know the Akashic Records and also develop our own connection. For many people, plant medicines are a way to expand their consciousness beyond their everyday level of consciousness, which is filled with so many beliefs and opinions and limited perspectives. And then from there, they can get to know the frequency of the Akashic Records. Oh, this is the perspective. This is the love. This is the possibility of these higher realms. And then after the plant medicine experience, they can have clear access to the Akashic Records because they've already had the assistance of the plant consciousness, which has helped their human consciousness open and expand beyond what they're used to. I think a big block for people in accessing the Akashic Records is they haven't opened their minds yet to truly grasp or understand higher perspectives. And an experience with plant medicine, when held in a very clear way, can be that initial opening.
And also opening the heart, no? They call Huachuma the heart medicine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In order to access the Akashic Records, we do so with a pure heart, with an open heart. And plant medicines can, Huachuma is such an opener of the heart, and it clears all the resentment, it clears all the fear, it clears what could block us from having clear access to the Akashic Records.
It is interesting, though, like talking about the Akashic Records, talking about plant medicine. We're here in Peru, such a magical land with so much wisdom. Do you see also similarities with the ancient wisdom traditions here and the Akashic Records in general?
Yes, absolutely.
In what way?
Well, just to give a silly little example, I shared a group Akashic record reading at SolSeed yesterday, and a woman asked a very specific question. And when I answered, she started tearing up, and she's like, that's exactly what the Quero priest told me yesterday. So the Quero priest was connecting, and he was receiving messages from the Apus that were directly from the Akashic Records, which then came through me in literally the exact same words.
I love that. Yeah. Is there, it's like we're talking about these different sessions. We also talked about that people can access their Akashic Records themselves and develop their gifts. I know you also offer trainings for help people guiding into this. Like, what is a process of people developing these gifts more and more? Like, How does that work?
First, they have to develop the foundational consciousness, which allows them to receive the insight, the guidance, the imprints from the Akashic Records. They also have to develop their trust, their faith in their channel, their connection to God. We're always connected to God. We're always connected to the divine. It is spirit that is animating our breath. It is spirit that is making our heart beat. It is spirit that is working through us constantly. And through the remembrance of that connection, we can develop trust and faith that through that connection, we can also receive spiritual guidance and spiritual wisdom. So that's a big part of developing our access. And then practicing. I feel that it can be really supportive to practice and be held in an energetic container by someone who already has clear and direct access and has already mastered that connection, because then they can open that connection, holds the container in a way which offers an energetic transmission and supports the other person in trusting and receiving and developing that connection as well. So that's a really supportive part of the practice. But overall, it's developing the consciousness and also the purity of heart required to access the Akashic Records. Accessing the Akashic Records requires a balance of humility. We have to be willing to set aside our beliefs, our opinions, our ideas, all of our perspectives, and drop into the state of I know nothing. And there is a higher power that knows so much more. And my understanding is so deeply limited. And my perspectives of life are distorted by my conditioning, by my past experiences, by my traumas. So there's kind of like a humility, a surrendering, a letting go that is in balance with an honoring of our divinity, a recognition that I am an extension, an expression of God. I am always connected to God. Divinity works through me. It moves through me. And I have this connection and I'm privy to divine wisdom by simply being an expression, an extension of God.
I feel you already have spoken a little bit about, things people experience and limitations. But can you speak a little bit more about the most common limiting beliefs people have around themselves, around others, about the collective?
I am separate. I am separate. It is a limiting belief. It is not true and real. And it has people fear life. When we can open to our interconnectedness with all of life and open to the Akashic Records perspective that we all come from the same source. And in the moment of our death, our bodies all return to the one earth, to the one Pachamama, and our souls all return to the one God. It helps us remember the inherent benevolence within life. And then we can feel loved by life, and we can feel supported by life, and we develop a right relationship with life. Everything that exists, because we are all one, exists to serve. And by that same token, we exist to serve all of life. And we experience our greatest fulfillment, our greatest health and well-being, our greatest enthusiasm for life when we see ourselves as in service to life and as blessings for this life. And when we can open our eyes to how everything in this life is truly a gift for us. So that's one, our separation from life. And then the other is our separation from God. Believing God is separate, and then it creates these ideas of victimhood, of powerlessness, where people believe that they have no impact on the experiences of their life, the circumstances of their life, and then they start looping in the same undesirable circumstances because they're not connected to the divinity, the creativity within them that can show up and co-create their experience of life. Like as these extensions of the divine.
Love that.
Yeah, and the idea of separation also creates war. It creates divisiveness. It creates hatred. It creates fear. It creates resentment. And these are energies that keep us sick and keep us stuck and keep us at a lower frequency. Our greatest fulfillment in this life is to show up in service. That's how we feel good. That's how we love life, by showing up in service. And when people are harboring hatred, divisiveness, ideas of war, antagonism, they can't show up in service. And then they feel like crap. And then they're anxious and depressed and miserable. And they're moving the energies of hatred, of resentment through their bodies, which are very low frequencies, which then create disease on all levels, mentally, emotionally, physically. So this idea of separation is extremely limiting.
Yeah, even from there, you're already answering so many questions that I had and wanted to ask. To go from there, maybe something to dive into. You're speaking so much about this karmic work, about this life. Is it also within Akashic Records, like that we can go back into other lives, past lives, and see the karmic work that we carry from there?
Yes, absolutely. The Akashic Records will reveal to you whatever is relevant for you to see and understand in order to more effectively and efficiently work through whatever you're working through in this lifetime, which can be related to past lives, and it can also be related to ancestors.
You see a lot of like repeating patterns there from past lives that we actually have to deal with in this life again and again.
Sometimes, interestingly, I have a unique perspective when it comes to Akashic record readings and past lives, because I see the soul as far more interconnected than is comfortable for the human mind to really accept. So the human mind, humans tend to believe that the soul retains its individuality from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. But I see that this one human experience that we have is we become like this individuated expression, but then in the moment of our death, our soul actually connects with other souls and then creates another life from there. So I don't really see this limited linear, like retaining this one soul, which then goes into this body and then this body and then this body. I see it all as far more interconnected. What I do see more is how much people are healing, transmuting, working with what they have inherited from their ancestors, which is actually encoded in their DNA. So when I'm doing Akashic record readings for people and they're not understanding, why am I engaging this pattern? Why do I think this way? I can see the like intelligence, the love, the brilliance of their soul and how it has come into this body with this DNA. And now they're working with healing the imprints in their genetic material, which is related to their ancestors' experiences, their ancestors' traumas, the limiting beliefs that their ancestors have created, or their karma that the ancestors have created.
There's also this saying, like if we are doing our own healing work, that when we cut those ties, we actually resolve past trauma from 7 lineages before, right?
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
I see. Can you speak a little bit more about death in that sense? Because it's such a weird concept for many.
It's so weird.
It's so weird. Does the Akashic Records show any perspective on death and the cycles of life?
Yes. Our destiny is to die. Every living thing has one destiny, one shared destiny, and it is to die. Death is the most natural experience in this world. Humanity has created so many distorted, perverted ideas about death, and now we resist death. We fear death. We believe it's such a tragedy. Yes, death is sad for the people who lose a loved one, but death in its reality is a birth into heaven. Death is a birth into another reality. So when the human body dies, the human soul has an experience of rebirth. Just how we came onto this planet, the soul then moves through a passageway and is rebirthed into heaven, into unity with God, with the divine, with the spirit realm. And it is a beautiful, ecstatic, incredibly blissful, enlightening experience. That is the true nature of death. And because humanity has so many not even limiting ideas of death, just like inaccurate ideas of death, a lot of distorted perspectives of death, it has made people very stuck and stagnant because growth and transformation requires these little mini ego deaths. Anytime we're growing and transforming and stepping into new identity so that we can actually live into our dreams, a part of us needs to die. There's so much fear of death that now collectively, many humans are afraid of even letting little parts of us die. And they're so afraid of the unknown, so afraid of the unknown because of the fear of death. So now there's a fear of letting go of present day attachments or just our present day reality to step into something new because it's unknown, it's a mystery, it's a mini death that now there's fear around. And now people are holding on, and that holding on keeps them more the same. It keeps them more stuck, and it keeps them looping in certain cycles and patterns and habits and addictions and attachments that are not in resonance with their true dreams and desires.
Beautiful. In that sense, like, these are definitely, a little bit more heavy topics in that sense. Just something from all these sessions that you've done, so many, like, what are some like light things or unexpected things that came up for you in a session, for example?
When I first started sharing sessions, what was unexpected was the lighthearted perspective of the Akashic Records and the total love and acceptance of the full spectrum of the human experience. So all the darkness, all the evil, all the atrocities, all the traumatic experiences that people would bring to me in a session, that like my human mind was so conditioned to believe, oh, that's awful, that's terrible. When I was in channel, it was like, wow, what a gift. What a blessing. This is activating this person's spiritual potential in this lifetime. This is a completion of this person's, of this soul's karmic cycle. This is an opportunity to be catapulted onto your highest timeline. It was unexpected to me how differently I saw traumas and tragedies.
I love that. Yeah, little rebirths, no? Insights.
Yeah.
Maybe something funny, but if you would say, as we see the human collective as a person, like, what would the Akashic Records say or have a certain message to the collective at this certain moment in time that might be beneficial?
My first thought is, it's not that serious. Life is designed to be a divine playground of infinite possibility. Absolutely everything that you are experiencing is ephemeral and fleeting, and you are always, always bestowed with divinity. It is divinity activating and animating all that you are, and that divinity holds creative potential. So the Akashic Records are always inviting humans to play with that creative energy, with that creative power, that creative potential, and to rise out of ideas of victimhood and of powerlessness, and to focus on you, focus on your life, on having dominion over your mind, your emotional body, your actions, your behaviors, and then create the life, the world that you are so desiring from you, because that is your only place of power. It is not supportive to blame, to point the finger outward, to say, I am miserable, I am unhappy, I am powerless because of this external circumstance. That is not in resonance with true spiritual reality or true spiritual wisdom. So the invitation is to restore your connection to your true place of power, which is from within. And the total activation of your creative potential and power can only come from one place, and it's your restoring your connection with God, knowing, experiencing, remembering that you are an extension of God, that you are always connected to this divine stream, and that you will live your best life by operating from there and severing ties to the influences of the world around you, of the mental matrix around you, of the energetic, emotional currents around you that are not in resonance with spiritual truth. So it's really supportive for humanity at this time to have a connection to the divine. Otherwise, they're going to be susceptible to all the energies, all the currents around them, which are quite pathogenic in nature. There are so many energies moving through humanity at this time that could easily take us down, make us sick, fill us with fear, fill us with anxiety, make us feel like, oh my gosh, I'm powerless, I'm a victim, this world sucks. It's like, heading in directions where I'm like kind of scared of what's going on. But that doesn't actually serve to contribute to the co-creation of a new reality, a world where there's more love, more harmony, more fun, more play, more remembrance of the God that is always moving through us, and the infinite possibility of this reality, and the fact that it is a divine playground created from the union, the coming together of our Heavenly Father God and our earthly mother Pachamama. And it's like the divine union of these beings that love us infinitely and support us, and they love us so unconditionally and support us so unconditionally that they've given us free will and free reign to create whatever it is we want. And we can create all the chaos and all the drama that we want, or we can create all the love and all the yumminess and the fun and the play and the creativity. Like it's all here for us, all of it. Mm-hmm. And it really helps to restore that connection to divinity, to remember that. Mm-hmm. Because if we turn to the world around us, a lot of humanity has strayed from spiritual wisdom, and they've created other ideas, the ideas of lack, the ideas of separation. We want to steer clear from that and continuously be clearing our minds and our field from those ideas, because they can really take us down.
Mm. It's something interesting because for a lot of people, these concepts that we're talking about me being maybe a little bit unknown. Also, you're talking about this concept about the matrix. Could you explain a little bit more about the matrix and how to release yourself from it?
So I feel like everybody could have a very different definition of the matrix. When I speak about the mental matrix, it is all the ideas, thoughts, beliefs, perspectives that human beings have been holding over a period of time that have then created these energetic structures within the collective human consciousness, within the world, which almost look like a matrix. And then because we are human beings, all connected to the collective human consciousness, we then become impacted and influenced by this matrix. So in order to live from spiritual wisdom, we have to develop discernment around how the matrix can be impacting us and continuously be accessing all of our personal guidance for our lives, our perspectives from divinity, from the Akashic Records, not from the matrix. One example of how the matrix can influence us is a lot of people believe that they need to work a job that is not their highest passion, not their highest excitement, not an expression of their God-given gifts in order to make a living. And that is a matrix around slavery. It's not inherently real or true. We also have matrices around capitalism, endlessly seeking more, wanting more, needing more. These different matrices start to drive our lives in ways that have us stray from what is actually possible for us and what we actually desire. No one, like God has not designed like an inherent reality where we need to hate half of our lives to give all of our energy to something that we don't wholeheartedly believe in, that we don't actually trust is blessing, is serving this world in order to make enough money just to pay the rent and put food on our family's table. It's a matrix. But it's not real. It's not the inherent reality.
It's fascinating, all of it. That's for sure. It's beautiful. So like how you're speaking to, pulling back the power to ourselves and working on our own consciousness in order to create a better collective. Just looking at the state of the world right now, if you turn on the news, you can be pretty distracted and being in a state of fear. You're talking about this other possibility, this new earth. Like, what if we would limit ourselves or release ourselves from all these limitations? Like, how would, this life, what is the possibility of this beautiful new earth?
Everybody living from a state of remembrance and living in love, from love, for love, with a lot more harmony, remembering that every other being is actually an extension of self, seeing self in the other, seeing Pachamama, the earth, as this living entity that birthed us, that created us, that sustains us, that nourishes us, that loves us infinitely, that is worthy of being cared for and honored. And I feel like with remembrance, humanity also would return to nature, return to the earth, return to Pachamama, and in doing so, return to our true nature. Like our true nature is actually quite loving.
As we're living here in Peru and you're using these concepts of Pachamama, I know what it means, but maybe the listeners at home, they don't know what it means. And my next question there would be also, like, what are some lessons you've learned here from living over here for 7 years in Peru, in the Sacred Valley?
I've learned so much. Before here, I lived in LA and Hawaii and outside San Francisco. And here I learned how to slow down, how to prioritize love, how to reconnect to the earth and to nature and live from my nature. I experienced a lot of deconditioning from capitalism, from the hustle, from prioritizing productivity above all. And I learned how to restore the connection to the body, to the earth, to heart, to community, prioritizing relationship above all, and remembering what is actually important. And then in remembering what is actually important and prioritizing that in my life, it helps me restore my health. So when I first arrived here, I was having digestive issues and I'd been on a long healing journey. I still had various symptoms, and all of that healed when I started prioritizing what is actually important. It also helped me stabilize my emotions. It helped me cultivate more emotional and mental well-being because it became clear to me what is necessary in order to cultivate mental and emotional well-being. And I felt like I was able to distance myself a bit from the mind matrices of the world and the cities that I was living in so that I could hear more of the guidance around what creates optimal health, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Hear that and then live accordingly. I learned a lot of that here.
Love that. It's where, we've been speaking a lot about coming from fear into love, separation into unity, looking outside, looking more inside, and working on our own consciousness. Like, what are some things for you personally that you're excited about developing for yourself in this coming year?
For me personally, what am I developing for myself? More love.
More love.
Yeah. Ever more love. Are you talking about something like specific?
Yeah, just in general, also things that you're excited about in this upcoming year. Life.
Yeah.
Things you're putting out.
I'm teaching Akashic Metamorphosis for my 9th year in a row. Probably maybe like the 30th time I've taught this training.
Wow.
Really excited about that. I have many retreats coming up. I have 2 retreats in Peru in April, and then I have a retreat in Greece in July, and a retreat with you here in the Sacred Valley in December. So I'm super excited about all of that. And I'm excited about, growth in all areas.
Love that. If there is one thing you want to say for people who are listening at home who are like maybe deeply struggling, suffering at this moment, like what's one message you would like to leave with to them to focus on?
The nature of life, the nature of reality is growth, is evolution, is change. And the healing, transformative power is love. The only healing power is love. So whatever you're experiencing mentally, emotionally, whatever you're experiencing within, invitation to love yourself, embrace yourself, accept yourself wholeheartedly, relax into your experience, trust that it is a divine part of your path. That is why it is happening. That is why God is permitting it. Trust in that, surrender into that, open wholeheartedly to your experience while remaining connected to the spirit of love, so that love can bring in the healing balm, so that love can bring in the transformation, so that love can move you forward and love can show you the way into truly living your dreams and living what it is that you actually desire, which is so available to you. And love can and will leave you there.
Love that. Is there anything that, we haven't talked about that you would like to share? Anything that we're missing to make this experience complete?
What do you think?
Maybe one last message from these lands, from Peru, from these sacred mountains, sacred valley that we're living in. Any last message that wants to come through the collective, to the world at this moment in time?
I feel like these apus offer transmissions around our resilience. They help us remember the strength, the resilience of the human heart and of the human body. So an invitation to allow strength and resilience to become a part of your identity. Humanity has collectively been weakened in so many ways, to such an extreme that people now, if they have any sort of symptom, like a headache, menstrual cramps, anything, it's like, let me take a Tylenol, let me take an Advil. When women are giving birth, let me go get my epidural so I don't have to feel the pain. People can't hike anymore. They can't walk. It all comes from our identity, our consciousness. So these apus offer these transmissions reminding us of the true nature of the human body and the human spirit and the human heart, which is so resilient and so strong. So I feel like the message is to embrace your resilience and strength, because we collectively, in order to heal, we need to feel. And there is an epidemic of people avoiding feeling and turning to numbing agents, turning to distractions, turning to addictions. But without the feeling, we can't really know ourselves, and we can't heal. And then whatever we don't feel, it starts to accrue in our emotional body. It starts to lead us towards the manifestation of disease because we're not actually listening to the symptoms that are arising. Disease on all levels. So invitation to develop that identity of I'm resilient. I have the power to feel. I can feel this. I can feel what is real. I can feel what is true. I can hold it. I can hold pain. I can move through it. I am strong. I like that. That's innate to me. It's innate to the human body. I've got this. It's innate to the human spirit, to the human heart. And allow this strength and resilience to lead you towards living your best life, cultivating optimal health, and just become aware of how you may be conditioned by this idea of needing to resist or avoid fully feeling and turn to any sort of numbing or distraction, which is only going to have you stray from your highest potential.
Thank you. Thank you for your resilience. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your love, your time. Thank you for all the beautiful wisdom that you've shared. And also thank you. Thank you for listening to this beautiful conversation. I hope you got something out of it. Whatever you got out of it, let us know. We'll dive deeper. There's a lot of things that are coming up. We'll put some links in the description where you can find the work of Daniela and other upcoming retreats and offerings and trainings, courses, sessions, whatever feels good for you. So again, thank you so much, Daniela, for your time, and we'll see each other soon.
Thank you, Jordy.